All right, here in After Effects, what we're going to learn to do is how to render, and we're going to use the rendering queue right in After Effects and also send it to Media Encoder. We're going to learn a little bit about that. So first, let me take a look at the animation that I've made here. It's pretty simple, but there is some video in the background. There's some graphic animation on the front, and there's a little bit of audio as well, and there's reason for that. I want to kind of show you how things to render could render potentially if there is video and audio, and kind of make the file a little bit bigger. So the number one thing I'm going to look at, I'm happy with it. I've done everything I need to do here. I've organized my files in a certain way. Maybe I should name them a little bit better, but all in all, I'm happy with it. I've labeled all my project here. This is great. So the project in general is organized really well, which I'm really happy with. I could always come back to later. Once it's closed, I could open it and I can work with everything again because it's labeled and organized properly. So composition is done. Doesn't matter where you are. I'm just going to go to composition and add to render queue. Now I'm going to show you add to Adobe Media Encoder later, but right now add to render queue. Okay, composition is done, and look what shows up. It just shows up down here. If I want to go back to my composition, my layer and timeline, it's right there, but the render queue window opens down here. Now I could click and drag that off if I want to and bring it somewhere else, but I'm not going to. So here I am. This is how it shows up. So I have my rendering, I have my render settings. This is my main render here. My render settings, let's click on that and see what that's all about. First off, if I click on or twirl down this arrow, it shows me all the settings that are in there, which is great. What I can do here on this quick arrow axis is click on this and quickly click on some other options. But what I want to do to really see all the different options I have available is actually click on the word best settings. So I click on that, another panel shows up. And it goes through far more things I could look at here. Quality, best, current settings. I could say, you know, whatever I want. If I want a draft version, or I want to actually just send this over to somebody real quickly, a very simple, poor quality, but still recognizable, I could click on a draft. But I do want best settings. My resolution, same idea. I want a smaller file size. They don't need to see the full resolution. I can click on half, third, or quarter. It all depends on what you want to do. And you can view it after, be like, no, that's too low, or, you know, full is fine because the file size is a decent size. The size itself, this particular composition is 1080 by 1080, so that's totally fine. There's a few other things here you can or cannot look at. If you want to shut off certain effects, you don't want any effects on at all, or anything like that. There's, you know, guides and different things like that. You don't really have to worry too much about that. So I'm just going to say okay here. The next thing I could look at is the output module. So once again, I could twirl it down. It gives me the settings of what's there. But this is an interesting one here. I could actually, the post render action, I could actually say, you know, I don't want you to do anything. Or actually, I could say, I want you to take this exact rendering that you are about to make and put it right in directly back into my project panel, and that would be import. Or if I want to replace usage, I could do that too, but I don't want to. I'm just going to say import it right here. So I'm going to do that just to show you what it looks like. So I'm going to import it directly back into the project panel, and it's going to import separately wherever I choose to save it. But let's look at those options first. Obviously, if I click on this one, it gives me quick options here, but I'm going to just click on the custom QuickTime, and let's take a look. So my format is going to be QuickTime. That's usually what I'm going to do here. A couple different options. I'm going to show you this one later. The channels are going to be RGB. Later we're going to play with RGB plus alpha, but I'll show you that later. The important one here is format options. So these are the options. Right in here it says it's going to be set on animation, which is fine, but I'm going to do two different options here because I want to show you an animation option and an output ProRes option just to show the difference. Okay, so I'm going to say okay there, that's fine. If I wanted to resize it, so if I click on the resize, you know, once again, I don't need it to be the full 1080 by 1080. I can make, you know, 500 by 500, 400 by 400. If I want it to be a little bit lower quality, small file size, if I want to change the resize quality to low, I can do all those things to make the, once again, the file really small file size, really accessible, really shareable. But once again, I'm going to lose quality, but that's only if I want to share it really quickly with somebody just to show them something really quick. But if I want the best quality, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to leave that alone. I don't want to see that. I'm not going to crop anything. My audio I'm going to always leave the same. I want it to be the best quality, so I'm just going to leave it as is, which is fine. There is a 32-bit option, but I'm not worried about that. 16 is fine, and I'm just going to say okay. And then obviously we have this other option here, the output to. So where do I actually want to save it and how do I want to save it? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to click on, you know, I'm going to put everything on my desktop. And what I should do for my projects, I should name them properly for myself. So that would be first name or last name, first initial, section number, underscore. This is going to be logo motion. And I could always put the date on it, which I'm happy. But for this one, just for the purposes of showing you the differences, I'm going to type in Annie for the animation version of it, just so we know the difference. It's going to be a QuickTime MOV, so I've already put that in there. It's going to be an MOV file at the end of the day. So I'm going to say save. Now, realistically, I should save this in a finals folder in my whole overall project folder, but I'm happy with this right now just to show you. So I'm going to say okay. Now, this is one option. What I could also do is say, you know what, After Effects, I want you to do another rendering for me. I want you to do a different one. So I'm just going to say plus, I'm going to add another rendering. Here's the other rendering right here. So I have my render settings stay once, but now this option shows up. That's my first one I did. Now here's my second one I'm going to do. So this time I'm going to click it as my format options. I'm going to change to Apple ProRes 4444. I'll say okay. And I'm going to change my output to, just by clicking on the name. Once again, I can name that, but I forgot to mention this. If I click here, I could actually change how I want these. Oh, sorry, I forgot to press OK because now it is Apple ProRes. My apologies. If I click on this, it shows me different ways to save. Do I just want the comp folder name? Do I want the project and comp name? Do I want to put the comp name and date and time, frame range? So let's take a quick look at what that looks like. So if it's going to be the name plus the dimensions, or if I want the name plus the frame range, or if I want the name plus the date and time and all that, not necessary, but just putting that out there. So the comp name, but let me click on it so I name it properly again. This time I'm going to call it, I should put a space in there. This time I'm going to call it Pro, because it's the ProRes version. So there you go. It's going to be an MOV. I'm going to save it on the desktop. Perfect. Great. There I go. So now, to get this going, I'm going to render it. Now, I could add it to the Adobe Media Encoder, but I'm going to do that later on. I just want to show you how After Effects actually can render things for you. So I'm just going to press render. Now, if I hold caps lock at this time, what will happen, it won't go through the preview for me. It'll just make it quicker, more or less. But I'm just going to press render just to show you this is what it looks like. So it's going through it. It's going to make a little sound at the end when both of them are done. All right, done. Awesome. So they're checked. They're great. Now here they show up. So I have this version here and this version here. So this was the animation version I did and the Pro version I did. So two different codec that I used to see. Now, number one, when I click on this one, it doesn't open up in QuickTime for me. I don't know why. It just does not show. However, if I click on this one and I'm going to open it with QuickTime, it will open up and it totally is fine. It's compatible. But the other one, I'm not too sure why that happens. However, if I do have that issue, there's another way to work around that. So it looks great. I'm happy with it. Quality is good. Awesome. Let me open up both of these in another program. Open with. I like to use VLC. It can open up almost anything. Now this was my animation version. Very choppy. Something's happening. Not looking great. And then this is my Pro version. Looks good. Excellent quality. Everything is fantastic. Let's take a look at the file size. Okay. What I like to do here on a Mac, I'm going to select both Command I, and it gives me the info or the get info. And now I have information about this. So if I look at this version, which is the the ProRes version, 50 megabytes roughly. If I look at the animation version, 112. So that's a big difference in terms of file size. For one that was better quality, opens up in all the programs. This one was it didn't know up in QuickTime. Still good quality, but a little choppy, obviously. And then this was the file size of it. So this ProRes was a little bit better. And the reason why, if you're doing a simple animation, no video, no audio, just basic graphics, short duration, they're going to be small file size either way. But when you start adding video, audio, a lot more effects, a lot going on, you're going to have a discrepancy between the ProRes version and the animation codec. So for now, what I like to push is the ProRes on rendering in After Effects. But they do both have their weaknesses and strengths. But for us, for what we're going to be working on, ProRes 4444 is definitely very useful and much, much better. So this is what I'm looking at here. Now, I want to show you one thing here on how to render the alpha channel. Now, what's the alpha channel? The alpha channel is the transparency, more or less. We're familiar with that term, transparency. Alpha channel and transparency are kind of more or less the same thing. So right now I have, I'm going to shut off my audio. Just going to get rid of it. I'm going to shut off my video because right now the video there is a background to it. Now if I toggle on and off my transparency here. Right now my transparency, there is none. It shows a white background. But if I toggle it on, click it on the comp viewport here, I actually now have a transparent background, which is the transparency, which is great. So I click on that, I play it. There's no audio, there's no video. It's just this quick little animation with a transparent background. Now to save that in a very simple way here, what I want to do is, and what I noticed, I totally forgot to mention, is that once I rendered my movie, it automatically got in. So the first time I rendered and I said import to the project panel, well, it showed up there and that's where it was. So let me do this again. I'm going to now I want the alpha. So I want the video to remember that there is a transparent background, or the alpha channel. So once again, the composition and add to render queue. And now these are the old ones. This one's done. So I could actually delete this if I want. Just press delete and here I am again. Once again, the render settings looks good. And then we just double check. Yeah, best. Looks good. Okay. I'm going to go to my output motion, or my output module, my apologies, post render action. Let's import that one too. And I'm going to click on here. This time, instead of my RGB, I just want my RGB, as in the colors, everything it sees. I want it to also remember the alpha, the transparent. It's almost like TIFF. If we save a TIFF in Photoshop, we say, you know what, there's a transparent background on there. I want you to remember that there's a transparency. This is more or less what I'm asking it to do. RGB plus alpha. The other thing I can look at is our unmatted version. So I'm going to go for color for the transparency. I'm going to say straight unmatted. My format options, I want to go back to Apple ProRes 4444, and this is it. That's fine. I'm happy with this. Say okay, done. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to twirl that back, and I'm going to save this once again on my desktop, but this time I'm going to say alpha and pro, just so I know what that is. You obviously don't have to do that, and you would name it properly, but this is just me showing you different options here. So I'm going to say save. Now save doesn't actually render it. I have to press render, so I'm going to do that. All right, it's going through it. Great. Okay, so it shows up here again. Great. So there is my MOV file. It went straight into my project panel because I asked it to, and it happens to be here as well. There it is. I'm going to open it. I'll open it with QuickTime and just press play. And it has a black background because QuickTime offers some type of background, but it is a transparent background. There's nothing there. All right, great. So let's actually put that in play. I'm going to shut everything off here, all my animations, everything that was going on, but I am going to add back my video. So if I just play it, my video, that's all I see is the video that was put in there. Great. No graphics, nothing happening, and I also shut off that audio. So I'm going to go back here. This time I'm going to bring in the alpha rendered, so transparent background video I just made, which was this one. I'm going to click and drag it. I could either click and drag it directly onto the composition, which it snaps to it, or I could drag it in the layer panel, either way. And there it is. Now it's transparent. We can't see it at the moment right now because the animation started a little bit later. Let's see what happens. If there was a background on it and I didn't save the alpha, there'd be a white background on it. I wouldn't be able to see the video. But because I did save the alpha, the transparent background, what should happen is it should show up without a background and just overlay over top of anything. Now the great thing about this, because it's all put in one video, I can move it around, I can do whatever I want. I could then obviously also animate it. I can animate this video any way I want, change up the parameters, and that's it. That's how it shows up. So this is a alpha rendered video, so transparent background video that I could overlay over top of other graphics, other videos, anything I want. So just wanted to show you that really quickly. So let me go back a little bit here, bring back all that good stuff that I wanted to show. Here I am. Great. Now what I'm going to do with all this, I'm going to bring back my audio that I had. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring this into Media Encoder. We're going to do something very similar, okay? So with that, composition is good. I'm happy with it. Once again, it's complete. Project is great. I scrubbed through really quickly. Yep, everything's there. Composition. Now I'm going to add to Adobe Media Encoder and queue it up there. All right, Media Encoder opens up. Now just a quick look through Media Encoder. It's a very simple program. It's mainly made to change files, to change video files. So now I could make video files different codec, save them different ways, use different presets. I can save them, rename them, and save them in different locations. A few different options there in Media Encoder that are very useful, especially when we're using After Effects and Adobe Premiere. All right, so here's Media Encoder. It brought in my file. My file's right here, actually. You might have to wait a little bit for it to populate, but it did bring it in. Let's take a quick look. Mainly what we're looking at, the windows, there's not many panels here in Media Encoder. Mainly the media browser. So if you wanted to find your own media and to transfer, change it somehow, and using Media Encoder, you could find all your files here. It's like a little bridge version here. You could find your files here. Instead of having to go to your computer and find your files and drag them in, you could actually find everything here. These are all the presets that are given to you by default in Media Encoder. You could add your own presets, make your own presets, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Here is the queue. This is the main area you want to look for. There are watch folders as well, so if you set up a bunch of older groups of things to render later on, this can do it as well, because sometimes you'll have renders that take a very, very long time, and sometimes it'll be quick, just like the one we're looking at here. Once I've set this up, it's going to end up in the encoding area down here, but we're not there yet. So let's look. This looks just very similar to After Effects, obviously, because After Effects actually does use this engine to create their encode, to create their renderings. So let's look. Here is what I had, the Super Service logo, and automatically, by default, mine does, and yours might look a little bit different here. You could obviously move some things around, and we know how to work with panels in Adobe products. You can click and drag them off, click them to other panels. Either way, here's where we're at. So I have this version. Once again, if I click on this one, it's going to give me quick versions if I want to click on different formats, but I'm going to keep it at H.264 for this. This is a standard industry codec to save to. Next, what I'm going to look at is the drop down here for the preset. So if there's a bunch of presets here, so if you're saving something for YouTube, for Vimeo, a bunch of different ways to do that. But right now I'm just going to match the bitrate source, but I am going to look at this as well. And then of course the output, how am I going to save this? Well, let's take a look at this real quick. I'm going to click on that. And once again, I want to save it properly. I'm going to put it on my desktop and I want to save it properly. This time I'm going to give it an extension just so I know what I'm looking for, just so I can compare the files later. And I'm going to put that on the desktop and save it. And now this time it's not going to be an MOV, it's going to be an MP4. And that's a very good container as well. That's going to put in all the video, the audio, and everything else and help me with that compression. So I'm going to say save, great. And I am going to go back here to the preset just to take a quick peek at what this is all about. All right, so here I am in the export settings of what I just clicked on here. And right now the format, H.264, which I could change it to a few different other formats, but I'm not going to. My preset right now is match source high bitrate, but once again, I can click on one of these other ones here as well, which I'll show you a little bit later. If I could add some comments, I could change the output name. If I just want to export the video or just the audio or vice versa, whatever I want to do there, obviously I got to do one of them. I'm going to put both in there. Now here's the other option. If I just want to collapse that, I can just to look at these ones, but I'll leave it open. The summaries there shows me exactly what I'm saving. The effects, I could look at the different effects here if I added some effects, and if I want to turn them on or off or whatever. I'm just going to look at the video right now. So basic video settings. Yes, I wanted to match the source, so I wanted to match the dimensions and match the frame rate and all this great stuff. But for this one, let's go a little bit further. Let's render at a maximum depth here under the video presets, or the video options. Encode settings, it looks good. Everything else looks good. And then down here, I'm just going to say use maximum render quality. So this is going to be the best of the best of the best. The best it could possibly give me. Great. The audio looks good. Some of these I'm not even too sure about myself. Adding some captions and publishing. Here's another option here. If I want to publish directly to the cloud or Adobe Creative Cloud, soon to my libraries potentially. Behance, Facebook, and FTP, Twitter, Vimeo, and of course YouTube. Here you just have to put in your information. If you wanted to put in your information, how you have to sign in, and it could upload it directly to your YouTube channel, which is huge. Okay, I'm happy with this. I've set this up. Here we could actually play through it and show what is actually going on here. I'm going to change this up a little bit later when I look at another option. I'm just going to say okay. By pressing okay, it's just ready to go. That's all. I have to click on this green triangle, the play, to actually render it, but I'm not there yet. I'm going to do a couple different options here. So still with this project that I brought in from After Effects, I'm going to add another version. Actually, that wasn't the one. I'm going to click on it, here I want to add it. Sorry, I'm going to add another output. So H.264, I'll keep it the same, but this time I'm going to say, you know what? I want you to do a preset for YouTube at 4K. Let's just try it out. Let's say this is what it's going to prepare for. Now we know that all of a sudden the preset is there, but a bunch of things are set up in a way that would be acceptable for YouTube at this preset. Now we know that obviously we made a square video, but this particular preset is not a square video. That's okay. Just want to show you what this is all about. I am going to change the output name, put it on my desktop, and I'm going to do the same thing. But this time I'm going to say it's going to be, let's just say YouTube. So this is the YouTube preset that I'm going to save it as. It's still going to be an MP4, which is great. Okay, there I am. Great. Leave everything as is. If I look at the video, yeah, so it changed the video dimensions to the preset of what YouTube is looking for. So that's the 4K version of the YouTube. All right, so it's not 1080 by 1080. That's 1080 by 1080. Now YouTube is saying, no, it's got to be bigger like that, which is totally fine. I'm going to leave it as is, and I'm just going to say, okay, because I chose those presets to be used. So obviously this knows what YouTube wants to see. So I'm going to say, okay, done. I'm going to do one more. So that one more option would be if I wanted to show somebody a slow, small version of this that's not great. It's just enough that it's going to be small. So I'm going to just do a custom view. I'm going to not export the audio. You know what? I don't need the audio. I'm fine with that. I'm not going to match the source. I'm going to click this off. So you know what? I probably only want this 500 by 500 smaller video. And it shows you right here what it's going to look like. That's it. So now the quality is going to be, the pixel density is going to be smaller, 500 by 500. Let's see what else we can do. I don't want it to render at maximum depth. I'm not going to use maximum render quality. And down here, what I could do, I could actually say, you know what? I want it to start right about here. And I want the video to end right here. That's about it. That's all I need. So I could actually cut out quite a bit. I say I only want to show this part. That's fine. But I'm actually going to cut it down even more just to show a little sample of what I'm doing. If I want to set this back there, I can, wherever the CTI is or this playhead is. But I could do that right there. And I could also do the same thing here. If I'm here, it's like, you know what, bring it to where the CTI is or that playback. I could do that as well. But I just right about there is fine. So I'm cutting off some time, making it even smaller. All right, so that's fine. And that's it. I'm just going to say, okay, good. So there I am. All right, I have these three options, a really good quality, the YouTube preset, and then a very poor quality. Let's see what happens. I'm going to render these out. And now the encoder is going to show me how quick they're going, when they're done, and all that great stuff. Obviously, one is going faster than another because there's very low settings, preset settings, and then obviously my high settings. All right, I'm done. They're all set. Beautiful. I put them all on my desktop. Let's take a look at them. So I have my H.264. I have my YouTube. This one I didn't save in the right place. And that's okay. So what I could do here, because it's still here, I could actually change this. I could click on here, and this takes me to where it was saved. So that's a great thing because of what just happened. So I'm just going to click, I'm going to save this. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to rename it. All right. And this one I'm going to save as, let's just call this low because it's low quality. And there we go. And I'm going to click and drag it, bring that to my desktop. Awesome. Now I have all three. So if you ever have an issue where you accidentally didn't save it properly or saved the wrong spot, no worries. Click on it here and it'll take you to where it is. So I have all these options. Number one, let's take a quick peek. Command I on a Mac to see all the different options here. Okay, 5.8 megabyte, 4.2 megabyte, 12.9 megabyte. So this version was the, now let me drag these out a little bit better so I can see the names of everything. All right, so that's the H.264. That was my good quality one. This was the low version, the low quality version. And this was my YouTube preset. Okay, so 5.8, 4.2. So yes, this should be much smaller, but it's already a pretty small, simple video anyways. So it's not a huge difference, but that is pretty small. And then the YouTube preset, because I was looking for the 4K version, it's going to be a little bit bigger and some good quality there. So then we can definitely see the file sizes. And once again, we can play them and just to see what's going on there. Cool, did a great job. Okay, so let's actually, I want to actually see this low versus the high. VLC. Okay, so this is the really good version, good quality, and remember we saw it was a low file size, which is awesome. Now let's look at the low, smaller, not great quality, but that's totally fine. That's exactly what we wanted. Okay, great. So this is how we render our videos for After Effects. I'm just going to close this down right now. Let's minimize that. Back in After Effects. So this is how we use our render queue directly in After Effects to create some renderings, obviously, to make some videos from our final projects, our final compositions. Obviously using render queue and media encoder to create those two great ways to finalize our videos in for After Effects.